And to start with, she's going to help you with secret server track and the activities involved in it. Sai Kiran is part of both L2 and L3 operations. For secret server, he takes care of the L3 activities, and he also takes care of the L2 activities as well for all the tracks. So both of them are here. I'll just be on mute. I'll let both of them lead the call, and if required, I'll jump in.
Sure, Asha.
Lakshmi, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Asha. Hi, Amir.
Hi, Lakshmi.
I just sent some links secret server. I hope you have gone through that.
Yes.
We have basics on secret server.
Yes, yes, Lakshmi. I've gone through the links you have shared on the email.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you for that. Basically, secret server is used in our environment to store the privileged accounts and their credentials. So this is basically to avoid the expiry of passwords and changing the passwords. Those are manual interventions, right? To avoid that, we use this tool so that we will set a schedule for changing of passwords or expiry of the passwords and all. So we are using this tool for those activities.
Okay.
Secret server. Four environments maintained for secret servers. One is production, next is test, and one more is dev environment, and one is DR.
Lakshmi, sorry to interrupt. Are you sharing your screen and
Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, Lakshmi, I can see your screen.
Okay, this is actually our current production environment architecture design. A secret server basically will have one web server and a database server to store the secrets and one web server for the UI interface. Since it is production environment and it should be, we should follow the concept of high availability. We are having two web servers and two database servers configured in our production environment. And database is of SQL type.
Okay.
SQL server UI is using the web server, and to store the secrets, it is stored on the database server, which is again the load balance, and a copy of this database is being copied on the DR site also. This is always in a passive state. This is not active always. So whenever a production environment goes down, this DR server is brought up to continue the activity without any downtime.
Okay. So we have two web servers and two physical, you said here?
So there are two web servers and two database servers.
Okay.
The database servers are always on production environment. But in DR environment, we have only one dedicated database server and one web server. This will be an or passive state. This will not be active. Whenever a production environment goes down, then only we will have this environment brought up.
Okay.
So just to add there, it's basically we have two VMs. most of the applications are hosted on VMs. We don't have physical servers. Kalamazoo data center has very few physical servers. I think one domain controller which is physical. Rest everything is VM. In two VMs right now, I think those are 2012 VMs on which we have IaaS as the web server hosting this application. So KZD data center VMs are right now being load balanced, and there is another VM on which we have installed IaaS web server and hosting this DR instance. So the idea is to have a DR capability for this application. So in case if anything is wrong with the KZD data center, we'll be able to quickly switch over to the data center instance that is hosting the application. So it's a UI based application, and the database is basically, we wanted to have the high availability on the database layer as well, not only on the web layer. So with the database, I think it supports SQL always on replication. There are different types of replications, right? Like mirror, merge, etc. So SQL always on is the replication that the vendor recommends. Even on the database, we want to have high availability and disaster recovery, similar to web.
Okay.
So on the database, we have two instances on KZD, which are active, and the DR center is passive. Basically, it's nothing but they are in a running in a asynchronous mode with always replicating from the primary database. And if anything goes wrong, then it's not auto failover; it's manual failover. So we just need to ask database team that okay, this database went down, this failover to the other one. So it can be within the same data center or across the data centers. So that is how it is right now. The reason of planning high availability disaster recovery at both web and databases that it is one of the critical applications, although it is being used as password vault as of today, where you just store your account password or your bank account password, and you have a lot of accounts. You will have a lot of accounts, or maybe let's say some service accounts, right? To run the secret server, also you would need some service account. So all applications like databases, server team, SharePoint team, there are a lot of services in a company, right? So all these teams are right now storing their critical service account passwords in secret server.
Okay.
So if secret server itself goes down, then they will not be able to fetch the password and recover any application during disaster scenario. So during disaster, this will be the first application that has to be brought up. That's why we labeled it as tier 0 to be able to support the other applications who are storing their passwords here. So although it sounds as a password vault, it is one of the critical applications that was there.
Okay. All the private information, passwords we store in secrets.
Private, I just took as an example. I
Okay.
would not really store my private information on the application, right? So it does have a lot of templates where you can configure your secrets. It can be anything. It can be your SSN as well, but obviously you wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
So from business perspective, application teams are using their service accounts, passwords, or any shared accounts. Like for example, some applications would need some shared accounts to run through, or maybe a person in a security lobby would need a shared account so that the people coming on shift would use that shared account. They wouldn't share their personal account password, right?
Yeah.
So all the shared accounts, a database are local accounts, Linux local accounts, all the Linux server local accounts, admin, all those things are being actually stored. So it is being used heavily by a lot of application teams. It is actually getting popular day by day. It wasn't this being used last year, but right now the more and more teams are recognizing that there is something that where they can store instead of just have it in an email or a local drive. The usability is increasing.
Okay.
Go ahead, Lakshmi. Sorry, I just hijacked.
No,
Go ahead.
thank you.
I'm sharing the UI which we use for our S2 and S3 activities.
I cannot hear you, Lakshmi. Sorry. What are you saying?
Am I audible now?
Yeah.
Hello. Yeah. 1 second. Yeah, I was telling that I'm starting to share the UI console application where we do most of the L2 and L3 activities. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, I can see your screen.
Yeah. So it involves two-factor authentication. Like you will give your network credential. 1 second. So once you give your network credential, you will be asked with the token,
Okay.
8-digit passcode, which will be generated by your mobile app agent. You have to enter that.
So, Lakshmi, as this is also one of your reverse KT sessions, I'll just go ahead with some questions. Can you, comment on why we actually need a two-factor authentication?
Is it for me, Asha?
Yes. I mean, you can explain so that it helps everyone on the call.
Since it is very sensitive and it has to be very secure, it contains all the privileged account passwords. Only the authorized user should be able to log in. And also, if the passwords, if their credentials are shared or misplaced, then also if they get the password, they will not be able to hack with this second factor. Hence, this is being configured.
Correct.
Okay.
That's true. Because usually for on-premise applications, two-factor authentication is not done. I mean, usually the way we configure, right? Because 2FA is also one of the try that we support, right? Why did we configure two-factor authentication only for secret server is firstly, as Lakshmi mentioned, it's because of its sensitivity. I might just be lazy to lock my system while I just go for a water break, right? And I just don't want someone to log into secret server with my one factor, if it's a single sign-on or something, and get access to all the passwords that I have. So although secret server as a product supports single sign-on, we have not enabled single sign-on. Instead, we have enforced two factors for the authentication. And one more reason is that domain admins, like I'm a domain admin in Zoetis.
Okay.
My password is being rotated by secret server, and if I'm storing my domain admin password in secret server, that increases its criticality even further, right? So I have to prove my identity to log into secret server in order to be able to use my domain admin password. So one factor is too risky for secret server application, as based on the way it is being used. So
Okay.
go ahead, Lakshmi.
Yeah. So this is the UI, Anurag, once we log into secret server, passing through the two-factor authentication. So the main activities which we do here is create secrets, create folders, and edit the secrets if required. And also we have admin activities like generating the reports or checking for the logs, and also configuring the Active Directory.
Okay.
This is as part of the admin, but but will not be giving admin rights to everybody. L2 activities, it will be only creating secrets and folders and providing access. The other L3 activities will be administered by the admin, L3 admin. Will be monitoring, will be maintaining only the secret server maintenance and this application maintenance, will not be doing any development activities on secret server.
Okay. So basically, in our scope, we will be working on Active Directory, system logs, roles, like any specific items.
Yeah, in case of Active Directory, we will be synchronizing the users from Active Directory to the secret server.
Okay.
So that both the users on secret server and the Active Directory are in sync. And the frequency for every 2 hours, the synchronization happens. We can edit the synchronization over in this tab. Select the domain. And save it and then synchronize it.
Okay.
So, Lakshmi, somehow I feel the flow is missing. Let's not just go ad hoc like this. I'm kind of having, I don't know how Anurag is, whether he's okay, but there should be do you have the KT topics list ready? Or you can pick something that when Ajay gave you or something. Do you have the KT topics list? Let's go in a
I have it
flow.
here.
Let's not go ad hoc.
ये ठीक है मेरी बात करा ना भैया से
Okay, Asha, I'll do it.
हाँ हाँ
Ajay, do you have the list?
Yes,
Is this the
Asha.
same list?
Yes, Asha.
Okay.
These are, yeah.
So let me take it. Let me just give some more background, like 10 minutes, and then you can continue on the operation activities, Lakshmi, because I don't want someone to just straight away start working on operation task if they don't understand what they're working on or why they're working on. So I think in your list, I definitely see the activities list, but overview, I kind of feel somewhere it is missed. I don't know if it is part of your KT also or not, but let me just take a 10 minutes time to explain those, if that's okay with you.
Sure.
Okay. So, all right. So we just discussed about secrets of architecture. We just discussed about what is the importance of it and why we have a two-factor authentication. The next part is, the first piece, right? Who all can log into Secret Server? That's the first piece that anyone will get it out. So Secret Server is right now user license based. We do have limited licenses available, so it is not open for everyone. It's not that okay, anyone who is just onboarded into Zoetis right today can just go ahead and log into Secret Server. That is not the case. The way it works is Secret Server's application has LDAP integration capability through which we have configured, integrated that with our AD. Lakshmi, as I speak, if you can just walk through the configuration, right? That's better. If you can go to AD sync, right? Secret Server, you can integrate with AD, and usually AD has like 15,000 or 20,000 people, right? So Zoetis has around 15,000 employees. we can't have all the 15,000 people enabled at one go or being enabled as and when they come and join. So the way we have configured is we have configured synchronization to run once every hour, pull in everybody in the AD, but keep them in disabled state. That is the configuration that we are. Secretsaville as a product offers different configurations. It does offer a configuration where you can just enable anyone as and when they are synchronized. Like if your account is created today, when your account is synchronized in the next hour, you will be enabled by default. That is, enable by default is one option. Disable by default is the second option. Third option that as a product it offers is mirror AD, which means if you're disabled in AD, like if a person is terminated in the HR system, and if they're disabled in Active Directory as part of termination, then disable them in Secret Server. If they're enabled in Secret Server, AD, then just enable in Secret Server. So mirroring is a third configuration that the product offers, but right now we are not using it because there are 10,000 active people in SailPoint in Zoetis as of today. We don't want to give licenses to everyone. Right now we just have like 300 licenses. We are going to probably increase that like 500 or 600 licenses, but it's right now disable everyone by default. If anyone requires access, like if Anuradh requires access, they have to submit a ticket to the L2 operations team. They will take approval from Phanisha, who is the service lead.
Okay.
And then as admins, we will enable them on demand. So whenever a request is submitted approved, we can go ahead and enable them from the console, which I think Lakshmi can walk through how to enable them. So the activities, I think she has it covered. Go ahead.
So I was saying like automatically it will sync all the users, but they are not going to give them the access. They are going to keep them disabled, or like if we required for that individual, then we will go ahead and give them the enabled or give them the access for secret server.
That's true.
Okay.
We can check your account right now. Lakshmi, can you share your screen and go to open the console and production? I think Sai Kiran can do it. You don't have access in production, right? You can do in QA. That's fine. Just do it in QA. Go to admin users.
I'm sharing your screen, Asha. I'm in UI console. Are you people not able to see?
Now
sorry.
we can see now.
Yeah. Go to okay, this is a console, the upgraded version console. You can just go to admin tab, and then there are a lot of activities that you can go walk through. Admin users is where you can see the complete user base of Secret Server.
Okay.
And then their status. Right now, all these people, I think there are, I don't know, if you scroll down,
33.
there will be around 17,000 or some 1,700 accounts. Out of that, okay, right now here it is 33. Okay. So in production, you would see everyone that is there in the production AD. So right now, if you see someone that's called Kannan in the last, right? You know Kannan. So
Yeah.
Kannan's account is right now in yes. Enabled is a column where it would say yes or no. Yes indicates that the user is active in Secret Server, and no indicates that the user is not active. In case if you have to give rights to anyone who is right now in no or disabled status, then just select the person and select the bulk operation as enable user.
Okay.
So that enables a person. So that is why I said it's on demand basis. So in production, if we have to give you access, then we get the L2 operations team takes approval, and they will escalate it to L3 team who has access on Secret Server as an admin. And this is how you can just enable them.
Okay.
So activities slowly, I think I'll let them do, but I'll just quickly cover the configuration part of it. Now I just mentioned two-factor authentication where you have to provide your 8-digit passcode, right? So that you can just verify in configuration tab under admin. There is something on configuration. I'll let Lakshmi walk through that configuration, but you can either do a single sign-on SAML, or you can do a two-factor authentication. So all that configuration will be available in under configuration tab. few more important things that you have to understand is now I mentioned that you can store your SSN, and I also mentioned that you can show your bank account password. So all these require a template, right? Like if you're storing something or if you're filling an application, the form should have the right fields for you to store the right information, right?
Yeah.
So that is called template. There are a lot of out-of-box templates that come with the product itself, and you can also create customized secret templates. Like if I want to have a custom one where I can say that, okay, store your bank account password, your mobile passcode, or whatever, right? So I can create a custom secret template with some custom attributes and either make them mandatory or optional or a text field or a radio button or whatever. So the secret templates are pretty customizable, but there are a lot of templates that already come with the product itself. As part of our activities, I think Lakshmi will walk through how the templates will be created, can be modified, etc. But that's something that you have to know, because that's something that we will be requested usually. That okay, can you create a template with so and so options or so and so fields? And now that you store your secret, there can be something called heartbeat, which what it means is it's nothing but like you have your AD account password configured, for example, and because Secret Server as a product is integrated with AD, you can set up a heartbeat and let it inform you in case the password goes out of sync. If your password is changed by someone on AD directly,
Okay.
but the password that you have stored on your secret is something else. So there is a synchronization issue, right? So the heartbeat fails. So it kind of tries to keep on polling AD with the password that you have stored on the secret. And whenever there is a mismatch with what is there in AD, it generates a heartbeat alert. So there is something called heartbeat, which we have not configured as of today, but it's not something that we need to configure on each and every secret, because as Secret Server admins, we are maintaining the application, but the capability of the administration of the secrets that all those 300 people in production are storing is not for us, right? Like Asha can store 100, Asha can store her SSN also. But if she's not storing it properly, or if she's not giving right access to people, like you can give access, view, edit, owner access on your own secret to a lot of people. If you are giving access to Ajay, it's your secret, and you're part of the maintenance. The support team is not going to take care of your secret maintenance as well.
Okay.
So there are a lot of features available in the secrets. You just need to be aware of those secrets features available, so that tomorrow if some user comes to you and tells that, okay, I want to create a secret, but I don't want to give access to so-and-so person, and I want to enable something called check-in, check-out. Like whenever you're checking out a document or a code, you have to write some comments why you're checking out, and that dedicatedly checks out to you, so that no one else can check out at the same time, right? So there is such feature also, check-in, check-out feature, which dedicatedly assigns or allocates a secret to you so that no one else can view at the same time. So there are a lot of such features. Maybe we'll give you access in dev. You can play around with those secret, like different templates, different options, etc. But yeah, make sure that you are aware of each and every feature that is available on Secret. And that's one thing that I wanted to cover. Features wise, we discussed two-factor authentication, we discussed AD synchronization, we discussed secret templates, secrets. Ajay, am I missing
And
something?
Remote password changing,
Yes.
which we call creating secret.
Right. So remote password changing is nothing but let's say I have my bank. I'll take the real example, right? I have my domain admin account in Secret Server, and being a domain admin, I was asked by security team to change my password every time I use it, so that I will never remember my password offhand. I should always come to Secret Server to check out my current password, and the moment I check out the password and complete my activity, secret server should remotely change the password or automatically change the password or rotate the password so that I will not store the password somewhere on my notepad or somewhere and then someone gets a chance to misuse it. So remote password changing is such feature where you can enable anyone, not only domain admin. For example, let's say Lakshmi wants to ensure that her account is highly secured, right? Then she can just create a secret and provide her bank account or any account, any AD account. I'm talking about AD because AD is the only integration that we have done so far. If you end up integrating any other third-party applications or any other tools, then Secret Server can do a remote password changing for that as well. But as of today, it's only AD accounts for which the remote password changing is working. So I can configure my bank account and password, and I can say that, okay, change the password every 1 hour. Or I can say that change the password every time I check it out. And I can give an interval. Like, let's say I check out at 10 o'clock. The checkout interval is 1 hour. Then at 11 o'clock, Secret Server automatically goes and changes the password in AD so that I cannot use the password that I've noted down in my notepad after 11 o'clock. I no one gets to misuse that.
Correct.
So remote password changing is one critical feature that is right now being used by domain admins also for security purpose. And there are no other secrets that are right now enabled with this feature, but in future, if the demand increases, then yes, it might.
Okay.
And we have Devon QA as well. I will let Lakshmi answer how we usually do the operation activities, what kind of do's and don'ts, and what is our usual approach for any production activity. Like if we are asked something to do in production, like what kind of change control process do we have? What kind of approvals do we need to take? What kind of communication we need to send to the end users? All that will be covered. Okay.
Asha, sorry to interrupt. You explained about the load balancer and the nodes, what we have in Dev, QA, and prod.
Are you asking, did I explain or should I explain?
I am asking whether you have explained or not.
Lakshmi went through the architecture. I think she did show the architecture where we explained that production is having two nodes in production, one in DR, but I think I didn't mention about Devon QA. Devon QA is single. It's like one server in Dev, one server in QA. We don't have load balancing. We don't have DR for non-prod environment.